I'm here with Valeria Trabattoni to talk about the philosophical consultation. So, first of all, can you tell me what is, according to you, a philosophical consultation?
For me, a philosophical consultation is a guided space of reflection where a person or a group is accompanied in clarifying thoughts, reordering values, and looking at problems from new perspectives. It is not therapy, it is not just counseling or coaching, and it is not technical training. It is something more radical and at the same time more essential. Philosophy returns to its original role, which is helping us to live better and also to make decisions with greater awareness. The goal is not to provide ready-made solutions, but offer tools for clearer and sharper and more creative thinking. A good consultation brings clarity, reduces confusion, and opens up possibilities that seemed invisible before. So for me, it's also important to underline a distinction because in my experience, there are essentially two main groups who ask for philosophical consultations. First of all, we can talk about individuals, and I refer to people who approach philosophical counseling as a form of helping in order to face everyday problems or to reach goals or to face specific situations. On the other side, we have organizations and managers and teams who request philosophical counseling for more professional reasons, not just to address people challenges related to work, but also to get specific skills and sophisticated tools of critical and creative thinking, which can be very useful for projects or guiding teams.
And what would you say is the main reason that you say this is not a therapy? If it's possible to say what is the main difference between therapy and philosophical consultation?
In my opinion, philosophical consultation open to new opportunities, new possibilities, which are primarily based on our view of the world. In this way, when I work as a philosophical counselor, I'm also very curious about the perspective of other people, and the position is not judging what other people think about the world or their perspective, but to help them to be sure that these perspectives are critically based and they can be a very strong point of view in order to build their life. What I mean is that as a philosophical counselor, we do not work with the disease because we don't classify reality in normal or not normal, or we don't think as reality as it should be, but we take reality as it is.
The question of helping or solving problems, would you say that has its place in philosophical consultation, or it's mainly not what we do, help people solving problems? I know some practitioners say, no, we invite them to think about the problems, but we don't help them.
First of all, we have to consider why people ask for philosophical consultation. And starting from here, you can build a specific program or a specific training for the people. But in my experience, the main difference between therapy and philosophical consultation is that if philosophical consultation is well done work, then people automatically and spontaneously leave their need to talk about their life, and their perspective opens, and they start spontaneously thinking and talking about life, about the law of the universe, and so they are interested in building, in creating their own perspective about the world. And so maybe people at the beginning come to philosophical counseling because they need something. And of sure, as a philosophical counselor, one of my goals is to satisfy this need. But this is just a first step. After that, we can also continue for a long time our philosophical consultation without taking care of a specific need and just reflecting together. And in this situation, my role is not the one of a counselor or a coach, but is the one of the philosopher who talks with another human being who can bring specific perspective on the world. One of the most interesting difference, in my opinion, between psychological approach or philosophical counseling is that as a philosophical counselor, I can teach how to think, not what to think, but what does philosophical thought is. I mean, for example, we can train our logic skill, or we can face philosophical books, and it is not so easy at the beginning to read a philosophical book, and it develops some specific skills like hermeneutical skills or understanding skills, and so we also work on developing this kind of skills, not just helping people to live better. And for me, this is a very important part of my job.
Mm. I see you use philosophical text as well in consultations.
Yeah, not always, but often.
It happens. Okay. I think you said in the beginning, if I remember correctly, that it's not just a technique. It's something
Yeah.
more. So would you say if it's not just a technique, is it also an art of some kind?
Yeah, also because every people is different, so I don't use the same method or the same tools or the same starting points with everyone. It depends. There are people, for example, who have already studied philosophy, people who have never heard about philosophy. I work with managers, but also with children. And so, of course, some flexible approach is useful for me.
Yeah. So would you say this philosophical consultation that it is for anyone, or there are some people who would be better doing something else?
I think there are two kinds of a situation in which philosophical counseling is not good for a person. The first situation is about those people who are searching for quick or ready-made solutions or standard solutions. Because they don't want to think, they don't really want to take care about the effort of thinking, and they just say, okay, I have this problem, I want a solution, give me the solution, and that's all. But it doesn't work. On the other side, people who has very serious diseases, I mean, like people who had trauma or they suffer from depression and so on. And in these cases, I suggest people maybe start from a therapy. And after a certain period, then also philosophical perspective can help them to open to the world, to new possibilities. But if there are some important mental diseases, I also suggest a therapy, because we are not doctors, we are not a therapist, we are not psychology or psychiatric. And so it is important not to overpass limits and to be very conscious of our limits.
So you could work with them, but you would at the same time suggest that they seek some psychological treatment.
Yeah, sometimes I also work with some psychology, and together we can build a specific process of rebirth for these people. But at the beginning, I suggest people to take care of their necessity in the short time, and then we can plan another step for the long time.
Yeah. I also want to ask about the ethical aspect of the consultation, and I think this would be one to decide who should have it, who should not. But generally, when you're working with someone, do you think there are some ethical considerations that you need to take?
Yeah, of course. And the first one is related to what I said just a few minutes ago, because we have to take into consideration clear boundaries, because a philosophical consultant is not a therapist or a doctor, and so we must respect these limits, and we should not invade fields that do not belong to philosophical consultation. Another point is that we should really listen to the needs and to the words of the other people, because our goal is not to convert people or to sell life formulas. Our goal is to activate a critical thinking process and also give the other people all the tools in order to make them independent in this process. And the third point is a social responsibility, because I also work with corporates, organizations, and in all of these situations, one ethical problem is that we must work in order to make these organizations really focused on the human being, on the relationships, and of course, as a consequence, the result is a better workplace, a better work-life balance. But our goal should not be just to make people more productive or efficient. And just give them some tools to face a stress situation and so on. Otherwise, we consider people as machine and not as human beings. And so this is also something important for me. So we can say for individual, the priority is respecting freedom, and for organization, it's a good balance of efficiency on one side and human responsibility on the other side.
Yeah. And you told me you work differently with different people, since people are unique and they function in different ways. But is there something which is common in your work? Like, I know some people, they base it on the Socratic questioning and so on. Do you have some theory or some method that you could say, this is my method, or it depends on who you're working with?
I think that in some way we are more connected with a certain kind of people. I mean, if I have to think about all the people that I met in philosophical counseling, I most of the time work with people who want to develop inner skills because they want to reach some goals. So maybe I especially work with people who have a goal to reach, and they start from this goal, and then they go on with a philosophical approach in a lot of different ways. I rarely work with people with hard situation to face, or, for example, with relationship drama or these kind of things. Maybe it is just because it doesn't sound a lot with my own experience, and so maybe we attract the people who vibes the
Yeah.
same frequently.
So, okay, so generally it starts out with some practical issues, but then moves on to more general philosophical
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
Or maybe also because sometimes people do not find it so easy to open with another person. And so maybe sometimes they start from a practical situation. And when they trust you and they trust the method, then they open and they share more inner problems or maybe some relationship troubles or some fragility that they have, but maybe this is not the first step in my
Yeah.
experience.
There might be something else behind this practical issue they come with, but it's hiding behind it, so it takes a little while before they bring it out into the open. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Especially when this is the first experience of counseling of a person, or when I face a person in an organization, or maybe they are managers, entrepreneur, and so I mean they are very attached to their rule in their mind. They can't have a fragility or limit. And so they accept this part of themselves just after a little bit of the process.
Mm. I just want to ask you about terminology as well. I know some practitioners, they prefer to talk about or name it philosophical consultation. Others call it philosophical counseling. Others have different names they prefer. So what about you? You have one you prefer, or it's not so important?
Um, I usually use both philosophical consultation and philosophical counseling. I prefer to use philosophical counseling when I talk to people as individuals, and philosophical consultation when I work with organizations and corporates, because it's more neutral. And also because philosophical consultation for me, it's not just counseling. I can do philosophical consultation for a corporate working, for example, in order to develop a strategic or critical or creative thinking, which is something else from counseling. So I think they cover different areas, and it's useful to use different names.
Good. So is there something else you want to mention? Maybe something we forgot to talk about?
Maybe a special mention for philosophy for children, which is also a kind of philosophical counseling. Because when I work with children, one of the things that children most appreciate is that they don't judge their point of view on the world. When they recognize that what is really important for me is not what they are saying, but is to understand why they are saying this. What about the idea, which is the base of your thinking, of your thought? Then they change perspective and they feel that they can have a space into the dialogue. And this is very important for me.
So in this way, it might be easier to work with children. It's easier for them to change their perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And they learn to ask why about to think in a critical way, and they are also more open after our process to diversity.
Good. So I think we'll stop here. So thank you so much,
Thank
Valeria.
you. Thank you.